Hey guys, we still meet up on Friday nights. Isn't that shocking? We are here tonight for episode number 85 of the Friday Night Movie Club, and you guys know these two who have been here since episode 1. Remember, what was the first episode we actually did? I think it was like the last Jurassic World movie that we did.
Yeah.
And I think it was, Hustle, I want to say it was like the first episode. That was a mess, by the way. That whole episode was a mess. But we have gotten a little bit better since then. Join us tonight, my good buddy Rob Model. How you doing, all right?
Pretty good. Saw 2 movies last night that we're reviewing tonight, and they were movies, but I can say that.
they were some of the movies of all time. You can definitely say that one. And also joining us tonight is a good buddy, Mr. Rick Aragon, joining us here. I guess you sacrificed the El Paso Chihuahuas to join us here tonight?
Oh, no, there are no games this week, so we're good.
Is it like minor league all-star or what?
No, I don't think so. They're out of town, and there's no locomotive playing either. So I don't know about next week, but at least for this week, you have me.
At least for this week. Well, we'll get to that here in a bit. We're all live on all 3 platforms right now. So we're here on Rumble, YouTube, and on Twitch. Not on Twitch. X, I should say. I keep wanting to say Twitter, but it's not Twitter anymore. But people just saying Twitter out of spite at this point. So we'll just call it whatever the hell. It's the one with, the fighting over Biden and everyone saying that. Oh, but by the way, for anyone who actually did see Biden last night, I was watching one of the movies we're going to talk about here, Horizon. And it got to the point where the whole Biden exchange became way more interesting than the movie. So for a good 20 minutes into the film, I was just basically seeing Biden's brain short circuit in real time, which is hilarious to me because there's one aspect. All these people now are suddenly shocked. It's like, wow, I didn't know Biden was actually this bad. It's like, you didn't know he was this bad? He was this bad 4 years ago. He's gotten worse. So it's like, are you guys truly living in a bubble that you guys didn't know that his brain was this far gone until last night? It's like that should be concerning. At this point, the people only just now figured this out.
But come on, insurrection, Biden boom, the greatest economy we've ever had.
And you know what the sad part is? Even though you make that same stupid joke every single week we're on this show, apparently there's people out there who truly believe that. And that's absolutely sad and pathetic.
Oh, well, yeah. Are they real people or are they the paid talking heads that are on Twitter? Because there's a bunch of people that just push.
There is
head in the sand bullshit about Joe Biden being a competent president. Where it's my parents who voted for Biden know he's incompetent. You know what I mean? They know, yeah, we get it, but Trump's awful, kind of thing.
I'll say this, Rob. I do know one person, our beloved values voter, who is absolutely convinced that Biden knocked it out of the park, and didn't once stumble, or he is a true devout. He's not only the true devout believer in Biden, he's the high priest of Bidenism. He is the true and pure conservative. He actually is the most conservative person in the world, and he supports eagerly. He's like Adam Kinzinger. They both are eager, proud conservatives who support dear Uncle Joe.
But there are people who are basically like, "Oh, who he had a bad debate. That's not as bad as being a felon." And it's just like,
yeah,
okay, guys. So he was a little sick, but I mean, it wasn't like the whole thing was bad. It's like, guys, like
it was just a cold. It was just a cold.
It was just a little runny nose, bro.
And he recovered this afternoon, apparently.
You know what the actual scary part of this whole thing is like, they hopped him up on like whatever kind of drug that can make his brain function for a short period of time as they possibly could before he got on stage. So you can only imagine what he's actually like when they didn't hop him up on drugs the way they did last night.
Well, that in private, he's able to quote, like I said, Democracy in America in the original French, and bench press like 500 pounds and do cartwheels and tap down the White House stairs, all in private, of course. He doesn't want to share this with the public, but in private, he's sharp and lucid, and he's running all his staffers ragged. Don't you know?
Well, people are making jokes that Joe Biden is like basically making him do this now. And it's like, no, you're not going to quit. You're going to go. And it's like, I posted the scene from Any Given Sunday where Lauren Hutton slaps Dennis Quaid, and it's like, you're not retiring. You're the quarterback of the Miami Sharks. And it's the same thing. It's like, at some point, this is elder abuse. You know what I mean? Like the lights on and no one's home. And so like, I think it's too late to replace him. You know what I mean? Because otherwise they would have to literally elect somebody at the convention. That's the only way you could do that, because they voted for Joe Biden. The however many voters nominated.
He really didn't have much of a primary or caucus season for Joe Biden. Now, the only way he would not run is if before the convention he announces, I've decided I'm going to withdraw. And who are they going to get? Kamala? Are we really going to support Kamala?
It's either going to be Big Mike or it's going to be Newsom. Those are the only two presentable options that they have on such short notice. So they're either going.
Who's Big Mike?
I saw that clip last night. I was like, "Oh, that guy knows he's fucking done." I would just like literally just walk right off the air. Like, write your own suicide note. Like, it's over. But it's
he's not. Yeah, he's not going to retire. He's not going to quit, because he has to restore decency to America. He has to heal the soul of America, because
he's to pardon his son from his gun conviction.
But that's Russian disinformation, Rob.
That seems to be the playbook. That seems to be the playbook. It's like, show Biden in the absolute worst light to have Democrats begging for anyone else, and then present them with literally anyone else. It's like, okay, now I'm comfortable for voting Democrat again. And now I don't have the brain dead one. And like I said, it'll probably work, because like I said, people are just absolutely retarded. Like, there really is just no soft way of putting it. People are just dumb, and it's sad.
Biden will win. Biden will win, because he's going to win Pennsylvania thanks to Rob and Cassie, and Georgia. He'll probably carry Georgia as well. No thanks to you. So it's all over. I mean, Trump has no chance. Let's just admit it. Let's just resign ourselves to the fact that we're going to get.
Well, if only we had voted for Nikki Haley, then we wouldn't be in it. Yeah, whatever. Shut up.
Oh, right. Yeah, like people are like, there's a mass movement for Trump. Maybe in your world.
If only we had supported Marco Rubio when we had the chance.
Hey, I'm going to probably just write in the candidate again. I've not voted for anyone. I've not voted for any.
You might as well just stay home. Like,
well, no, because we have a mayoral election in El Paso.
Oh, I wonder who's going to win that one in El Paso.
And we do have a representative here in my district. We have our congressman. We have a Senate race between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. And I'm sure Colin will, sweep to victory.
If we had just went with the plan and voted for Jeb Bush in 2016, none of this would have happened.
Golly, no, come on, that's a little rough, Jeb.
No, it's funny you actually said that, because there's a meme that was like Jeb Bush with fire in the background. It was like, all you had to do was clap.
Yeah,
It's like, please clap.
He seals your fate. Yeah, we're talking about the election because we have two movies that we have to talk about tonight, and
Well,
I
actually,
don't know,
we have
maybe you guys
one movie and one long opening chapter.
Yeah.
one aggressively long first fourth of a movie, because there's another one coming out in like 2 months. Then there's like two other ones that haven't technically been shot yet, but they're supposed to come out in the course of the next several years. So this is it feels like it's a over elongated like mini series. Like maybe you guys should have just made this, I don't know, a Netflix series. It did like 12 episodes. It probably would have flowed a little better. You actually could have like pulled out a storyline in a proper context. But instead we got Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1. So this is the movie that we're going to start off with first. So we'll wind here a little bit. Kevin Costner, over the last few years, kind of revitalized his career on the Taylor Sheridan show, Yellowstone. Yellowstone has essentially been one of the biggest, if not the biggest, TV show of the last 15 years. It's one of the shows that, up until some production issues, let's just call it that, over the last couple of years, it was really the only thing people were still watching consistently on TV, as everything else is going down the crap room. And it was Taylor Sheridan, who has written so many great movies over the last couple of years. Like I said, Wind River. What was the other one?
Sicario, Hell or High Water.
Yes, Hell or High Water, the two Sicario movies. I know he did Those Who Want Me Dead. Wasn't really that big of a fan of his film, but I know he was working with a couple other people, so that wasn't like all him. But like I say, if you look at just the quality of like his films over the last few years, he's been one of the better screenwriters in Hollywood. One that I actually look forward to seeing his new stuff. And he's been writing all of these Western shows for was it Paramount Plus now? Which who knows, they may not even be around here in the next couple of months because they're going through some severe money issues at the moment. But Kevin Costner has apparently had a fallout with Yellowstone over the last couple of years here. They wanted him to come back to film the final season of the show. He's pretty much refused to come back. There's been talks about, his marriage falling apart and a lot of things that he didn't want to work a certain amount of dates, and there was like money issues, and all of a sudden they had to just write him out of the show for the conclusion, which sucks. I mean, you built it up to that point, but then when your star doesn't actually want to come back and finish his obligations, there really isn't much that you can do there. So you kind of put them in the mind. And while he was doing all this, he decided that he was gonna sit in the director's chair and write his own movie. So this is Kevin Costner, director, writer, producer, and star of this cinematic epic Western project, which is going to be split into 4 particular parts. So for those who don't know the story of this saga, the first one came out obviously this weekend. The second part of this will come out on August the 16th. So only a few weeks away from that one. Now that one won't be nearly 3 hours long, but it's close enough to 3 hours long. And then I guess depending on how well the first two do, they still have a chapter 3 and a chapter 4, which probably will be released sometime in the next couple of years too. So it seems like they're going all in on this one, and by they I mean New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers seem to be going all in on this project. And there's a lot of stars that have been attached to this. Now the question is this is how would you rate Kevin Costner's I guess attempt at doing his own Taylor Sheridan shtick without Taylor Sheridan? I would say off a first glance, probably not the best of idea, because here's essentially the problem here. Well, we can kind of ease into it, so we'll talk about the characters here, but here's the problem. You pretty much told everyone that this is only the part 1 of a part 4 of a series, and it's 3 hours long. So we were assuming going into this that this would be a strong introduction into the story that will get us more captivated to watch part 2 that's coming out soon, and then hopefully get people excited enough to watch part 3 and part 4. It feels like to me that I don't know how you feel about this one, Rob. I guess I start here with you. It feels like he tried to squeeze so much into this film that at a while it just didn't feel like much made sense. And there was a few characters that I was actually looking forward to seeing in this movie, but they're not even in that movie much. And you have to be reminded that they're even here because they don't come up again until like an hour and 50 minutes later into the storyline. It felt like to me going into this that the whole thing was just a jumbled mess. Maybe we can split about where we differ here. What was your thoughts on at least the story structure of Kevin Costner's I don't even know exactly what to call this. Is his epic, his debut here, because it's not his technical like debut for writing and acting.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean it's a Western saga. I mean it's a
Hmm.
massive. The scope of this is massive, and in fact, when you kind of take a step back, it very much plays like a Western novel. It takes a very slow amount of time to introduce characters, motivations, relationships. It's like you're in the middle of a 1,500 page novel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And this is
And
it's
the
almost.
writer is giving you every single detail within that. Like he's not cutting anything out.
Right, and the thing is, like, with cinema, it's like you use the camera to tell the story, and when most of the I mean, don't get me wrong, there's great shots, there's great landscape shots in this movie, it's expansive, but it's mostly people talking, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's these things, again, slowly develop, and it's hard to sort of generate momentum that way. You have to be really invested in that kind, and not all of it is like action oriented. Some of it's some really like mundane, corny bullshit. And so again, I feel like he's trying to make like a John Ford Western that is massive in scope, that's trying to sort of, uh, you know, take the time to tell all of these characters through multiple states from before the Civil War started all the way to the end of it in a
Hmm.
12-year timeline. So yeah, it's like he's trying to lay the foundation in this first movie. He's trying to introduce all the characters. He's trying to show, okay, Kevin Costner doesn't show up for 2 hours, by the way. He doesn't show
Yeah.
up until like well into the movie. And you kind of don't know who he is until obviously he has a gun battle. And then it's like, oh, okay, you can kind of see where his character's going. But it's everybody else before that. It's Luke Wilson, it's Michael Rooker, it's Sam Worthington, it's the women, who are kind of dealing with the Indian massacre. Like, you know what I mean? It just kind of goes
Yeah.
all over the place. And as much as I love Westerns, as much as I love what I think Kevin Costner is trying to do here, it's a huge gamble. And again, at the end of the day, even if it's well written and all that stuff, there's no guarantee it's going to work. And I'll just one last thing here, before Rick can kind of give his 2 cents. I know you didn't see the movie, but um,
You're
like
still here, I guess.
Kevin Costner is well versed in westerns. He
Yeah.
did Dances with Wolves. He did Open Range. He loves the genre. This is somebody that if somebody can do this, I believe it's Kevin Costner. In fact, I actually think that he's more capable of doing it than Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan has been very successful as a screenwriter. Really, Wind River is the only movie he directed where I really liked it. I saw his. I don't know if he directed that
Did he
HBO
write
movie.
that one or did he direct
He
it?
wrote and directed it, Wind
Okay.
River, and he wrote Sicario, and he wrote Hell or High Water, which
Oh,
were
okay.
both
Okay.
excellent.
Yeah.
And I like him a lot. I still want to see Yellowstone. I haven't gotten to watch it yet, but so yeah, I don't have a dog in that fight in terms of like the dispute between those two guys, but
Yeah.
I like Kevin Costner. I think that he's capable of doing this, but I think he might have bitten off more than he could chew. But again, it's one part. You know what I mean? So it could improve, but it's like Dune. You know what I mean? Dune is
Yeah.
basically a 5.5 hour movie or 5 hour movie. And so it's like, it, try releasing that. Try releasing that to an audience and making it digestible. They couldn't, so they split it up into 2 parts.
Or
So we'll
3.
we'll see how it works.
Three that we know of, unless they try
3,
to do
because
that
I
part
believe,
one, part two with the last one, like they always do. So,
yeah,
so,
I think they're just going to do the third one.
That's Messiah,
so
though.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
here was my initial thoughts of film. I think the opening 20 minutes or so is actually pretty well done because it's setting the stage for exactly what world we're in. Like I said, this is like pre Civil War, around that time period. And you know right off the bat that there's great tension in this region between, the settlers and the Native Americans, right? So right off the bat, you're shown, hey, settlers are here trying to make whatever they have with the land that they have, but the Native Americans are there and they're brutalizing like these people. Like you see early on, a kid and his father is killed like brutally, right? right? And then they go on to the village, they attack the village, they steal all their guns, they burn everything down. So I let you know exactly what the conflict is. It's very, very dramatic, and I thought it was very, very well done. So with the introduction, I was like, okay, I like where this is going now. Now, obviously, we're gonna start like introducing like the characters and kind of expand a little bit more on this. And then here's what I think where this film started to sway completely off the rails here is that with so many characters in this film, I think that you're probably better off not introducing probably half the people who are in this movie until the next movie, right? You know, so there's a lot of characters like there's a couple of them we can name here for a second. It's like Isabella Furman who's in this film, and then what's his name, Luke Wilson. Like there's a whole story plot line with them. Honestly, they only showed up, I think, for about 5 minutes in this entire 3-hour film. You could have just left them out of the whole thing entirely and then introduced them in the next setup of this film. And I think what he tried to do is that he tried to introduce everyone who was possibly going to be involved in this conflict in this film and overloaded it a bunch where nothing really gelled and nothing really felt like that it made any sense. Because right after the Native American massacre, we go on with Jenna Malone, who for her first scene is just her shooting some guy and stealing, the kid, and we don't know, is this her kid? Is there some kind of like conflict going on here? But this is supposed to lead us into like later on, it's like, okay, well now these guys are after her trying to get the kid back, and that's where we introduce Kevin Costner's character and it's up. But it just feel like there was a lot of things about this film that just didn't make any sense. When you're trying to watch it straight and you're trying to follow everything that goes along here, at a certain point, just be like what is actually happening here? Because it's like it feels like there's way too much to try, and nothing's really gelling with one another either. Do you feel that way, Rob?
Yeah, no, I mean it bounces around a lot, and then it settles in for an extended period of time. You know what I mean? And then almost doesn't know when to shift off of it. Do you know? And so like I feel like it has a hard time with its pacing. And look, westerns can be incredibly slow and set in nature and about observing the surroundings and things like that. But
setting the atmosphere.
But you have to kind of balance that with a momentum and a pacing. And again, I don't think the whole movie is badly paced or edited or anything, but there are moments where it really just drags. You feel every bit of that 3 hours of the runtime. Now, I will say, like, Luke Wilson was actually pretty funny, like kicking the guy's butt and being like, "Hey, if you see other men at work, you should be working." It's like, what are you doing? Sitting on your ass drawing a picture. You fucking, you know what he wanted to call him. But you know what I mean? And then he has to tell Luke Wilson that, oh, hey, these guys are staring at my wife, trying to wash herself, kind of thing. Like, so, I mean, like it's slowly introducing these things to be like, yeah, there are dangers within the settlers. There's opportunists. There's people that have all kinds of motivations, depending, regardless of what side they're on. If they're part of the army, if they're a Native American, if they're part of the settlers. So, and the thing about bouncing around is like Luke Wilson and that party, they're in Kansas. Whereas the settlers or whatever, that's in like Montana. Do you know what I mean? So like there are.
So I'm trying to think, was it Montana or was it Wyoming, or was that a completely different group of people too? So it's almost feel like how many locations were actually happening in this film?
Right. And that's the thing, is that there is so much that is thrown at you that it's almost hard to keep up with all the information. You know what I mean? And so that's why I just tried to kind of take it in all in that one sitting. But yeah, if I had to recollect everything that happened in the movie, I probably couldn't do it. I would need to watch it again. But yeah, I think that it is overstuffed in that sense. And it's also hard to comment on because supposedly there's 3 other movies, and it's like, if every movie is this jam-packed, then that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest flaws here is, like I said, there isn't really a focal. I wouldn't say a focal point, just like a focus, like a character that we focus on throughout the course of the film. Because early on, like you're seeing kind of like all of this, death and destruction, which, like I said, it's basically just introducing like the time period, which I'm fine with. And then you kind of get this idea that, okay, so Jenna Malone's character is the character that we're going to be riding with here for at least, moving forward with the film. And then after she shoots the guy and then runs away, she's kind of there for like 5 minutes and then just completely disappears for like a good chunk of the movie. And then it's like you move on to like the other character, and then you start thinking to yourself. Then it goes back to obviously the aftermath of what happened. That's when you introduce Sam Worthington's character. So Sam Worthington is kind of like the military guy who's there to kind of pick up the pieces of like after the attack, looking for people and stuff like that. Then you get the girl and sorry, the woman and the daughter, the two that actually like survived the attack. And you think, okay, so there's something going on here. But then the next thing you know, you go back and you have Abby Lee's character, who's basically the town whore. Let's be very clear here.
Yep.
And she's trying to seduce Kevin Costner. So now Kevin Costner has been introduced here. So you start thinking to yourself, okay, so is he like the main character here? So it's like, which character are we supposed to be focusing on? Because for like 20 minutes ago, we were focusing on this other character. Now we're focusing on Kevin Costner. And then you don't even see the one character we started the film with for like another like hour and 50 minutes into the runtime, to the point it's like, oh yeah, he is in this film. Like what's going on here? It's like, oh, by the way, then there's this other woman who's in the movie, and then there's like this awkward scene where she's trying to take some kind of like shower like in the middle of nowhere, and like dudes are staring at her. So it's like, well, what was her purpose of being in this film? So it just loses so much focus. It's always constantly bouncing around and around. It is a very difficult film to follow with a 3-hour runtime. I think it's probably the worst possible thing you can do with a movie in that time period. It has to have some kind of cohesion there, or if not, I mean, let's be honest here. How many times have we attacked guys like Zack Snyder for having long movies that should probably cut some things out, because if you got to force him to work within like a 2.5 hour timeline, he's probably not as good as a director or a filmmaker as a lot of people would seem to be. We saw the whole thing with the Justice League reboot, and then Watchmen and some other movies. It's like, I know you want to cram everything in there, but you really have to pick and choose for the sake of the story. And it felt like they really just gave him free reign to be like, here, do whatever you want. And I don't know if that was the wise decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kevin Costner's character is going to emerge, because obviously there's the storyline with him, with him shooting a member of an outlaw family, with Dale Dickey, who's the matriarch of them, and obviously that's gonna be the conflict kind of that's addressed in the second movie going forward. So I mean, I think that's going to be, and then obviously I'm trying not to give spoilers here, but also like the town whore just seduces Kevin Costner and then like writes him a note and leaves the kid that Jenna Malone or whatever was taken care of. And so it's just like, okay, I'm on board. Like, I'm gonna watch the rest of these movies. I'm interested, but this first part definitely left me wanting more cohesion, more like sense made from the story being told. Because you're right, there's really no primary focus. It just kind of jumps around and then slowly moves forward in time. It jumps forward in time, and especially when it introduces Kevin Costner's character, him coming to town, and it's beautiful. The yellow leaves on the trees, and I think they're the Cascade Mountains in the background, and like it's great. And I can appreciate or what he's trying to do with showing the common folk out in the elements, where it's like they're used to like quote unquote fine living, to quote Once Upon a Time in the West. I bet you're used to some fine living, and it's like, you're probably used to like indoor baths and not sweating all the but just these things where you don't have these things out in the elements. And so I can appreciate what he's trying to do, but if it doesn't really move the story forward, it just kind of feels extra at you know what I mean, when you're adding on to already a 3-hour runtime.
Yeah, I mean, this film, it's very odd, because you would think for a film that's over 3 hours that you would get a lot accomplished story-wise, but it's a 3-hour film that you just feel like, does this really accomplish anything? Like, does anything that is really like set up or completed, or you at least understand that okay, this is where we're at now. This is where we're going. I think because remember there was like a 3 to 5 minute like montage at the very end of this film, which is showcasing what's gonna happen in the next film that comes out like in a few weeks, right? And you're watching the montage, and this is supposed to be like, oh, okay, this is where we're going, so things are gonna get exciting now from this point on. But it's like, dude, it's like I don't even understand like where we're at now, and it makes even less sense trying to move telling us what's gonna happen like in the future. Because like at some point you're sitting here watching, it's like, wait. So this is not part of this movie. This is part of the movie that we're gonna watch beforehand. It's like I said, the biggest flaw here is that this movie is so disjointed and hard to follow that even like for like an old school like a Western fan, you're just gonna be sitting there for like 3 hours thinking to yourself, "Is like, am I even being entertained by this?" Because it feels like more confusing than entertaining, and that to me is a big no with a film like this. You have to keep. Here's one thing. I think he tried to individually introduce everyone's story up to that point to kind of get everyone situated, or at least have us know enough about these characters moving forward. But that's not creating a cohesive story. You start with one character, and then you introduce other characters as you go along, and then you kind of like unravel the story so that it makes a lot more sense rather than, oh, here's this person with the kid and the baby, and then, oh, here's Kevin Costner in this town, and oh, let's go back to the settlement where all these people were burned down over here, and then, oh yeah, let's go back to these other people who are basically doing Oregon Wagon Trail over here, and then let's go back to Kevin Costner's story now. It's like, what is going on? And to me, it just feels like a completely confusing story to even follow. This may be a movie that you probably gonna have to watch twice to kind of understand exactly what happened, but I can't guarantee that if you watch it a second time, it's gonna make any more sense for you going into this. So I mean, it's a tough spot to be in for a film this runtime.
Yeah, and I mean, I think of it almost if you can look at it as a human continuum. So you have Angus McFadden, the guy in Braveheart, Robert the Bruce or whatever, who tries to help the kids the kids in their family who end up getting murdered. You know what I mean, by the Native Americans, and it gets passed on to the settlers who locate the same land where the family was murdered previously, and then it's the wife and the daughter who survived the Indian massacre, but all of their family died, and then you know what I mean. And then they meet up with the army, and they're like that monologue that Danny Houston does as he's talking to Sam Worthington, basically about if you're mean enough and you work the land enough, that they believe that this could be theirs. You know what I mean? And the Native Americans feel the exact same way. And how the army looks at it as this sort of cynical conflict that, hey, we're going to win at the end of the day. They don't matter. They think they're going to have a say in it, but they really don't. And so, again, I can see the long form, expansive, novelistic narrative that Kevin Costner's going for. But if you're not like a really big fan of traditional Westerns, I think you're going to have a really hard time with this. I am not a big fan of traditional Westerns. I love Westerns in general, but I would say I struggled a bit to kind of, now I was tired, to be fair, you know what I mean? But I kind of struggled to get through it.
So. Just real quick here too, because of the runtime of this movie, you're going to be very scarce to find solid times that you can even go see this movie because it's 3 hours long. So you're only going to be able to go at 1, 4, and 7 to go watch this film. So if you're going there at 7 o'clock at night and you're kind of tired and you're trying to struggle to get through a film like this, you're probably not going to have the best experience overall. So maybe not go to the very late portions of this one unless you really want to test your patience. But another thing that I find very, I guess, confusing about this film is that you can definitely tell that this was a passion project, and this is definitely a movie where it's if they can make the studio notes available to the public, I would love to see what Warner Brothers kicked back to Kevin Costner, because I had to assume that the notes were probably more than the script itself. It was what is the point here? And look, this is probably another point of contention that I'm pretty sure that a lot of the let's say left-wing critics probably had a problem with, was the portrayal of Native Americans. Because believe it or not, the Native Americans are not portrayed as these innocent folks who just had their land taken by the white man and all this stuff. It's like I said, perfs. 20 minutes or so. It's pretty brutal. It's pretty I wouldn't say over the top, but it's like it's definitely, if you're into like hardcore like action and gore, it's like, oh yeah, they're really killing people and ripping off people's scalps, because that's exactly what happened during this time period. And
They're
I
they're
think this
not
film,
one in nature. They're not at one with nature.
Well, they're
Most of the
Apache. First
time.
of all, they're Apaches.
yeah.
One and two. You see it later on when they go back to like the camp or whatever.
Hmm.
Talking to the chief, where he's just like, you're fucking things up for us. Like, stop doing this. This is not the way.
Yeah,
This is not gonna
because
be
now they're gonna come
sustainable.
after us now because you
Yeah,
attacked all of their people.
and I
So.
do like stuff like that. I like that it's balanced in how it views. Okay, there are people in the settler camp. I mean,
Hmm.
Sam Worthington talked about it, like hunting scalps and passing off non-natives as native scalps, and it just incentivizes murder and shit. And so
Hmm.
it's things like that where it's like, yeah, there are opportunists and manipulative people on all sides of this situation. People in the army who want to help protect people like Sam Worthington, and then you have cynical, government people like Danny Houston, who's just looking for his piece of the pie. So it's again, there's a lot of things about this movie that I do like. I'm probably going to give it a higher score than, if you'd listen to this, you'd think, oh, I'm pretty down on it. I mean, that's what being a movie critic is. You look for the problems in the movie, why
Yeah.
it doesn't work as a whole. And again, I have hope for for the movies in the series that are coming out in the future. But again, it's just like, this is all that we have, and it's a bit of a jumbled mess. But yeah, like if you like westerns, go see it. It's just, it's long, and you got to have patience. It's a bit of a slog.
Yeah, don't drink too much soda. Let's put it that way. You're gonna be sitting there for a while. Like when I finally got out of like the movie theater, this is like my thought. It's that individually there's things about this film to like. I just think that he tried to do way too much on the first shot. Like if you have 4 parts and you're pretty much committed that this is going to be a 4-part series over the course of how many years you're going to do this, you don't have to blow your entire load on the opening act. It's like you can save things for later portions of the movie and be like, okay, so these are characters that we'll be introduced to like in the second movie. Let's kind of focus on at least these two characters or these two groups, and then build on that going forward. I think he had cut out a lot of the confusion here and just focus on maybe one or two main storylines and built his film on that. I think you probably have a lot more to look forward to in the first one. Here it just feels like he was throwing everything that he possibly could at this one, and I don't know who was the editor of this movie, or if there was an editor of this movie, or if you could, if you were in any position to tell Kevin Costner, no. Actually, I don't know what the setup is for this film, but it felt like this is one of those rare instances where somebody did need to come in and be like, "Hey, look, we know you're the writer, director, producer, and this is like your baby here, but you got to make some changes here because I don't think that this is going to go over very well with audiences." Um, Here's the thing: it's a very very tough film out there to recommend off the first shot. I know the next one is probably about 6 weeks away. So, like I said, we'll at least see that if this was going in the right direction or not, or if it's just going to further be like, okay, this whole thing is just like completely off the rails. It's like, I think we'll know when part 2 or chapter 2 comes out if this thing is destined to be a solid hit or if this thing is an absolute horrific mess. For me, I just like I said, I'm watching this. I don't think this is gonna be something that is gonna get casual moviegoers. If you're a fan of westerns, like I said, there's things to like, but there's things not to like too. Being fair here, I'm probably gonna give this like a 2 out of 5. Like I just don't think I can go like much better than that. Well, here, like I said, I think he just tried to do entirely too much for this movie. And here's another thing too, just real quick. I wonder if you feel the same way about this. The more that I watched this movie, and the more I kind of understood like what this project is, I just thought to myself, why didn't he just do this for like like a TV show? Like, why wouldn't he just do this for like, hey, you got 13 episodes to tell whatever story you want to tell it in that time frame. It probably would have worked out far better because you could have introduced certain characters in later episodes and had more of time to kind of chop things up instead of doing 3 hours on one movie and then 3 hours in the next one. And I can only assume that the last two are probably going to be around the same time. So you got like 12 hours of content anyway. Why not just do 12, 13 episodes of a TV series that you can cut into like 1 hour integrals and people can actually start building up for it? It felt like it was probably a better idea on television rather than an actual film. Maybe he just didn't want this to be compared to Yellowstone. So maybe that was probably a problem for him. But I mean, the way that it's structured, like I said, it's probably better off going the other way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I am never gonna be that guy who's like, "Oh yeah, let's put it on a TV streaming service." Because I'm look, I'm a snob in that way where I just love the theater. I love cinema. I love what that means as an art form. Even if it's a little pretentious in the sense that like, oh, it's more important than TV. It'll always be more important than TV. It'll, so and I like the scope of the cinematic experience of something like a Western. There have been Western TV shows for as long as TV has existed. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, it must be on. No, it doesn't have to be. It's just, I understand what he's trying to bring to life, bring to the table.
Yeah.
It might be a failure, but he's the one that's at least partly financing it. It's $100 million for the first two movies. He's paid, it's 38 million of his own monies into it. So I at least respect that just from a business standpoint. He is a producer on it. And that means, in this sense means he's putting his money where his mouth is. If it's a failure, hey, it's a failure. I mean, he already, I think, won the whole divorce thing with his wife where he didn't really lose that much money. And, he came out ahead. So whatever. But look, I just want good movies. I want to be entertained. I want to be engaged. I want to feel, you know what I mean? Like I want to go to a movie and be moved and care about the characters I'm watching and be engaged. And this movie felt like it's like halfway into that. You know what I mean? Like there are good moments. It's a promise of something to come that's more epic and more cohesive, but we don't know. And so ultimately it's kind of a unfinished product, or at least it feels that way. So there's a lot to love if you like Westerns. I know that Eric McDonough, the conservative film buff, loved this movie. But again, he loves movies. He loves the 1930s John Wayne Westerns, which I have seen and I'm not the biggest fan of. But again, so it really depends on your sensibility. However, trying to be fair, trying to, look at everything and judge it fairly, I would give it a 2.5 out of 5.
But first of all, does anyone else find the irony that the former model is playing the prostitute in this one? It's almost like they're being a little too on the nose with this one. Outside of that, like I said, to me, like I said, this feels like this could have been fixed if somebody had just sat down and be like, okay, let's put together a structure for the story and move forward there. Just like I said, I don't know exactly who. I mean, look, when you're the writer, director, producer, actor in the film, if something flops, it's all on you, right? So it's like I can't sit here and say that that Kevin Costner, oh, this wasn't his fault. And it's like, no, I mean, if you're going to take all these hats, then if this film fails, then it's pretty much all. You can say that maybe the studio should have intervened a little bit here, but it's like this is your baby, so you're going to take. If this was a success, he take all the praise, but if it's a failure, you got to hit that too. So yeah, I mean, look. It just felt like an unstructured mess for 3 hours. And then we had like a 5-minute like MCU like post credit end scene that was supposed to hype you up for the next movie, even though it's supposed to come out here in a couple of weeks. So, like I said, credit for taking a risk. I just don't know if that risk is going to work out. But like I said, we'll see in a couple of weeks whether this thing is destined for failure or not. I know what they said is that the third film is pretty much being filmed right now, or chapter 3 is being filmed right now, and then they'll probably do chapter 4 sometime towards like either the end of the year or the beginning of next year. So they're committed to this whole thing no matter what the box office receipts go. So I mean, if you're all in, you're all in. I guess we'll figure out which way this goes. Rick, do you have any questions or inquiries regarding this film that you did not watch?
Well, first, the mention of Sam Worthington already alarms me because that man is walking wood.
He's actually not bad in it. I would say that.
Well, it'll be a surprise because he can't act. He just cannot. If I've seen him in, was it Terminator Salvation? I've seen him in that
Avatar.
Avatar, he can't act. I've
Man on a
seen
Ledge. Have you seen
Man on
that?
Ledge. Yeah, he can't act. What was that one where he was like in a Greek themed movie? Oh, the Clash of the Titans and Rally of
Oh
the
yeah,
Titans.
that's right.
Yeah,
He
those
was.
were
Yep.
terrible, and he can't act. So that's worrisome. And it's unfortunate that
You're not a fan of the Shack.
oh, no, my mom liked it. I was not. I did not think much of it. I'm. It's sad that I was going to say that Kevin's Gate has already been used because it sounds like he's trying to do his own version of Heaven's Gate, which was supposed to be this massive film, also a
Which has
western.
great moments and in it. It
I
has
mean,
great moments, but it's
I've not
not. It's a
seen it.
mess.
I
It's a
have
mess.
not seen it. It does have a Criterion release,
Yeah.
but it does sound like he's trying to make this sprawling film. Uh, Kevin Costner's well versed in the Western genre, not just with Dances with Wolves, not just with Yellowstone. He did a documentary series about Native Americans, so he knows this world. Uh, I don't know if really we need three, was it 3.5 hours for just part one. You could kind of get away with that in something like Dune, only because Dune is such a massive novel. This is, from what I understand, an original story. So he's putting in so much and not giving people a lot. So we'll see. He's really banking on people wanting to see more of the set of the continuing saga of Horizon, to see if people really want to see more.
There's so many characters in this movie that if you go to the Wikipedia page, half the character list doesn't even have names. It's just the actors who are in the film, but they only have no idea like what their names are in the
But no
actual
joke,
movie.
there are literally like I would say 32 to 35 characters with like multiple lines of dialogue, like dozens of lines of
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, and it's just like it just jumps around, and it's like okay, if you're gonna see, you're right. If you're
Like
gonna do
say
that,
it
it
doesn't. Like
makes
say
more
it
sense for a
just
TV show or something. Like it just is. Anyway, it's frustrating because I'm
It
like I
it,
want it to be better.
like I say,
it
there's no cohesion like in the story. It's like it's not like one story is like leading up to another story that we're kind of like snowballing into a bigger picture here. It's just like now we're gonna focus on this character over here, then we're gonna go all the way to this other state to focus on this character over here, and then at some point Kevin Costner is gonna be on a horse with a whore and a baby of the whore in the mountains in Wyoming for some weird reason. Then we're gonna go back to Sam Worthington, and it's just like, does any of this like connected like at all? It's like, is there anything
that's
connecting
the
any of these
thing.
people up to
That's
this
the
point?
thing. It sounds like they want to connect it in the second, third, and maybe fourth, where
Mm-hmm.
all of these stories have to. It almost reminds me, and this is going to sound strange, it reminds me of what they call, was that the tricolor trilogy, blue, white, and blue, white, and red,
Blue,
by
red, and white.
Blue,
Yeah,
Red, and White. Yes, with that Polish director. I'm
yeah. I
sorry,
can't pronounce his name. Chris,
yes,
whatever. Yeah,
Krostovsky, I believe. I
yeah.
don't know. It sounds like it because there's supposed to be three separate stories, but they, at the end, and I think the end is blue, they all connect somehow. I've not seen it. You can also get that on Criterion. So it sounds like he's trying to put all of these stories. Are all of these characters related or connected in some way that you could tell in part one?
No,
The only ones that have any loose connection is what Jenna Malone's character and the hooker, because they were,
Oh, I thought
I
Jenna
guess
Malone
they
was
were
the
like
hooker.
sisters.
Oh, okay. See, sprawling might be the wrong word for it. It sounds more like meandering and just kind of going all over the place. True, I haven't seen it. I don't. I think just based on the length, I think I'll probably wait until we get the entire set or series on disc so that I could watch it slowly instead of going going to the theater, paying
So
my
this
my
he's
was
gonna
it
movie,
watch the
17.
slow movie very slowly. I like
yeah,
Yes,
it.
right.
I'm
No,
going to.
so
I'm going
so
to see. I'm going to pay what I'm going to pay. Like if I'm lucky, $7. No, or if I probably show it at the Alamo, which is like already $14. I'm going to go pay $14 to see it, and then about a few weeks later, I'm going to pay another $14 to see part two, and then much later, I'm going to pay. I mean, that's a lot. He's asking a lot
Yeah,
for
you're a
audiences to
city employee.
invest.
I know it's tough.
we get
Yeah, I
it.
make much less than you guys. I'm pretty sure I make much less than you guys. I'll just, so it's a lot.
And
It's
you have a
just a lot.
government job, so that's even worse.
Yes, but I am replaceable. So said my director.
Yeah, so
So
you should take it personally.
no.
But no, so here's the thing. So the first movie is about 3 hours and 1 minute. I think is the official runtime of the movie. The second one that comes out in August 16th, like I said, about roughly 6 weeks away. It's when the second one comes out. That one, as of right now, is at a runtime of 2 hours and 44 minutes. So it is a little bit shorter than this film. At least from the character list that I see, they probably won't have so many people in this movie, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be any more cohesive than this one is. Look, if we watch chapter 2 in a few weeks and it's a lot better, then we can say, oh, hey, maybe chapter 1 was just a really rough start. But if it starts to show us something here, maybe we can give it somewhat of a pass, and then in a couple of weeks. But that second one's going to have to pretty much hit a home run at this point, or else this is just going to be an absolute disaster. So that's all I have to say there. And
All
with
right.
that said, with that glowing recommendation of Horizon Chapter 1, the American Saga.
Before we go, I have a real quick question for Robert. Robert, where would you put Horizon Part One in your list of 100 greatest westerns?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna make the list. I mean, I have Dances with Wolves. I have Open Range in the top 100 because I do think that they're two of the best made westerns ever made. But yeah,
It's
no,
not.
I mean, it would have to be Horizon the entire series
Oh,
because that's the complete story. That's why it's like I can appreciate the scope of the whole thing. The reality of it is just like, okay, I can hear John Ford in his grave being like, you asshole, cut it at 90. I mean, this is a guy that made so many like 80-minute westerns in the silent era, just like whipping them out one after the other. You know what I mean? Like he
mhm.
wouldn't have any idea. Kevin Costner, this is going to be at least 10 or 11 hours at a minimum. At a minimum, it's 10 or 11 hours. So
Well, and it's actually shorter than the original cut of Heaven's Gate, which I think ran only 5 hours or something like that. And that was long for the studio. That they said you
yeah.
can't release it in this way. It's far too long.
And
But
and my favorite film of all time is something similar. It's called Once Upon a Time in America. And because of Heaven's Gate, it got shafted by the studio. But that vision, Sergio Leone wanted to make a 7-hour film originally. And then he was like, "Can I do it in two parts?" And they were like, "No." So it exists as a 4-hour, 8-minute cut. It is a brilliant film. I mean, you can argue it has issues, but that's my favorite film of all time. So I understand messy cinematic passion and everything, and I'm a champion of it, but it has to work. It
yeah,
has to, you know.
it's interesting that I think Roger Ebert changed his view. He said he saw the first version and he hated it, but then he saw the reworked version and loved it. And
Yeah.
it's reminiscent of Cleopatra, where Joseph Mankiewicz wanted to make two films. Caesar and Cleopatra, Anthony and Cleopatra. Daryl Zanuck said no, it's too much. So they were forced to put it into one. But all I can say is that I'm sure that Horizon Part One is not going to be better than Johnny Guitar. That's my sole.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. No one cares. So let's move over to the next movie. It's just A Quiet Place Day One. So this is the third movie of the Quiet Place franchise, and this is the first official prequel to the franchise. So I'll set it up like this. I really love the first Quiet Place, and I really like the second Quiet Place. I think Emily Blunt is great in both of those movies. I think that it works with her. However, what this film tries to do is that it says, okay, you know what we're going to do with this one? We're going to completely remove ourselves from her family and then go find somebody in New York and have the exact same setup of exactly what happened on day one. And doing that, I was kind of like, oh man, here we go, because now we're completely removed from the story and the family that actually made the first two work, and we're basically just like doing like our own thing, which technically I'm not completely against, because like I said, I've said this before, it's like if you want to do something instead of ruining the original lore, then just go do like your own like little side thing, and this is essentially like their own little side thing, right? So you have what was the name of this girl? I can never pronounce her right. I said Lupa.
Lupita
Lupita
and Nyong'o.
Nyong'o.
Lupita and
Yeah,
Nyong'o.
Okay, we've seen her in quite a few things over the last few years. She's been in a couple of Jordan Peele projects here. Black
Uh,
Panther, obviously. She was in that
12 Years a
awful,
Slave.
yeah,
That's
and
what
she was
she won
also
the
in
Oscar
that.
for.
I was gonna say she was also in that awful the 355 movie that came out a couple
Oh
years
yeah.
back. That was rotten. So, but I mean, I guess she's one of Hollywood's favorite targets now because she seems like she's always in like a big project every now and then, and she's pretty much the lead in this film. So I was very interested to see how this one was going to set up. We shift focus now, kind of away from like the the rural, in the woods to, oh my God, it's New York City. It's busy. There's like 13 million people here. It's overpopulated, and now we're going to have a bunch of zombie monsters falling from the sky and killing everyone, right? And that's kind of the setup of A Quiet Place. So before we get into the film itself, I want to ask you guys, both Rick and Rob. We'll start with you, Rick. What is your thoughts on the Quiet Place franchise up to this point? What was your thoughts going into this movie?
I have seen only part one. I never got to see part two. I think they did send me a screener for that, and I saw the screener for part one. I thought part one was very well done. It was almost like it wasn't quite a silent film, but it was very effective. And when he used sound, so I think it might have made my 10 best. I never saw part two, so I have no idea about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Before I saw A Quiet Place day one.
All right, Rob, what's your take on the Quiet Place, the first two movies, I guess?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the first one. I really liked it a lot. I think my review is a little bit more glowing than I would have liked, just because. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like a monster movie. So, like, come on, let's get real. But no, in all seriousness, it's a very good movie. It's a very good movie. And that the ending always, always gets me feeling emotional and whatever, because John Krasinski's sacrifice and everything. And then the sequel came out during I remember it was like during COVID or right before it shut down or right after the shut. I don't remember, but I think that was like the first movie back, or it was right after COVID started. I can't remember, but it was okay. I think it's interesting that Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt worked together before Oppenheimer. Just a couple years, but yeah, I remember not kind of being that taken with it. I thought it was kind of disappointing as a follow up with how good A Quiet Place was, but I was probably just being hard on it, knowing me. But yeah, I'll have to rewatch it at some point. I brought it up to my parents; they're actually interested in rewatching them, so I'll do that then.
So the concept here that we're going to start off with this one is that Longo. I don't know. We'll figure out what I'm going to call her.
Lupita and Nyong'o.
I'm just going to call her
Lupita
Lupita
and
because
Nyong'o.
I'm not getting that second one right now. I don't have enough patience to figure it out. She's a terminally ill cancer patient who's in hospice in New York, so she's basically going to die anyway. So you shouldn't feel bad.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah,
no, yeah. It's like the first 3 minutes of the movie. Right?
Yeah,
I knew she was in I thought she was just like a mental illness thing. That's why she was in the hospital.
You just thought that she was like a degenerate. It's like, no, she's actually died.
The bus said hospice. There's a sign in the building that said hospice.
See, guys, I don't need details for horror movies. I just need the meat.
I don't need any problems like kids actually dying or anything like that. But no, she is in fact a terminally ill cancer patient who is basically living out her last days the best way that she can. Her, I guess, care worker, not her friend, because she made a good note about that not being her friend later on, decides to take her to some kind of weird puppet show that was why, well, of all the things to do in New York, why would you pick that one thing? But as she's going there, it's literally the scene from what is it, Shaun of the Dead, where she just walks across the street to get a little thing of ice cream, and then the end of the world happens. She doesn't even realize it. So she's walking down to the street to get something to eat. Next thing you know, the military trucks are just coming out of nowhere. It's something bad's going on behind the scenes. It's almost like a Cloverfield type thing, right? So she goes back inside. It's screw it, I'm out of here, I'm taking the bus home. And then all of a sudden the bus stops, and then everyone's looking up, and it's like, oh, here's all these things that are falling out of the sky. So if you guys did not catch the second Quiet Place movie, in the first 5 minutes of that film, we found out that with John Krasinski's character, that they were attending a baseball game with their kids, and all of a sudden they saw the giant meteorite fall from the sky. That's where all the monsters came from, and then that's what started the whole thing. That's where they got attacked. All of these things came from space, and they also started attacking everyone and took over the entire world. And as they figure out later on here that these things operate by sound, they technically don't have any eyes, they technically can't see, but if you make any kind of noise whatsoever, they're on you just like that, right? And it's kind of my problem with this whole concept, and we'll talk about this in the course of the film. It's never truly consistent about how these things actually hunt, because you'll hear like somebody do something like drop a fork on the ground or something like that, and all of a sudden it just busts through the wall and like kills you instantly, right? But then, like, when one guy's like climbing on a ledge, and the thing's like right next to him, somehow he doesn't know he's right there. So it's like, how does it have like perfect position in one aspect, and then the other side you just can't see him? Like,
I did notice that in one scene, and I don't know if you'll talk about it later, where they're in, like, where they're making the machine is going, and nothing happens.
The generator, because I think it was a generator.
The generator's going, but then a piece of cloth tears.
That was one of the things that bothered me too. It's like this loud ass generator just starts going off all of a sudden, and they turn off the generator. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we're fine. And all of a sudden he like tears like a piece of his shirt, and he just dies immediately. It's like, well, if the loud ass generator didn't give up his location, I don't think the tearing of his t-shirt would be the thing that killed him there, right?
Here's the thing though, and I agree with what you guys are saying ultimately, because it's like, it's just very logical kind of conclusion to come to. But I also felt just like the kills and the timing and all of the things that actually come down to execution of the scene were so well done that I didn't mind. Like, I don't, when I'm watching a movie like this, I honestly don't care if logic holds up if I'm entertained. It's just so rare that actually happens, or I'm immersed in the story being told. I actually liked Lupita's character. I liked her. I didn't catch that she was terminally ill because I'm an idiot, but and maybe it's because I whatever. I some apathetic, socially awkward, whatever. But I liked her. She wanted to get pizza. That was her thing.
Oh, it's the Italian thing with you.
So yeah, I don't know, but yes, you're gonna go to New York City and not get pizza. You're insane. Anyway, so I mean, there are things about it I liked, even if logically some scenes don't add up. Like, because when her friend or whatever, doctor, nurse, when he eats shit there, like, I thought that was a pretty good scene. Because because right before it happened, you knew it was coming. And then it's like it jumps out, and even though it's coming, I still genuinely I jumped, a little bit. So
Rob, I want you to quote my number one golden rule of filmmaking.
No.
Yes, admit it. Something will happen if the plot requires it to. All right, that's why you had these inconsistencies, because it had to happen to build up the tension.
So, like I said, early on, there's definitely parts of this movie that reminds me very much of Cloverfield. Like, I think this scene here where they're all up like on the roof and all the bridges are being destroyed. Because, yeah. So it's the same similar thing that happened here in Cloverfield. I mean, I get it. Yes, it's in New York. It's a monster movie. Like, of course, it all sets up right.
I'm sorry, but when I'm watching that, all I could think of was the song.
What?
Up on the roof.
Yeah, no one would have figured that song out. Like,
oh gosh,
I thought it was cool. By the way, blown up.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it reminded me of the show tune that I remember from 1946. It's like nobody would have.
Not a show tune. Come on, it's from like the 50s, and it's Carole King. So if you ever saw Beautiful,
that narrows it down.
If you ever saw Beautiful, the Carole King musical, you would know it. And
you know it's 2024, right?
Well, yeah, I know it's 2024, but that doesn't make the oh well, never mind. Go on.
Anyway, so like I said, this is the setup of here. They figure out at some point. I mean, they basically figure out once everyone starts dying that hey, these things operate based on sound. Now, to me, you can argue that they kind of figured it out a little bit quickly, but everyone's kind of sheltered into the place that they were having the stupid puppet show earlier, and now they realize that hey, look, if we make any noise whatsoever, these things are gonna come get us, and they're gonna go crazy and berserk and whatnot. So it's just like, don't say anything whatsoever. Now, one thing that I do like about this film that they didn't do in other films is that because it's New York and because it's so massive and the scale is so massive, unlike the first two movies where they basically have to like be in the woods or whatnot, I think they did a good job of utilizing their surroundings to kind of like make up for the fact that hey, look, we're not just gonna have like an hour and a half movie where no one says anything throughout the entire film. So it's like, hey, well, if the characters can like use, let's say, throw a rock across the street and use that as a distraction, so that way we can move around, and like we'll use the waterfall so that way we can speak to like one another, because I mean if they can't hear the water and they can't hear it speaking like through the water, little things like that actually do work. However, there's one sequence here we'll talk about here in just a little bit that really bothered me, but we'll get to that here in a second. The one thing that I did not like about this film was, and look, there's not a whole lot of characters in this movie, to be completely honest. It's probably only about 5 characters in total. But look, it's New York. I get it. I cannot stand the super effeminate, pussified men who are in this film. The ones who are just always crying and blubbering, and all of a sudden it's the cancer patient that has to like keep everyone together because all the men are just turned into such weak little pussies who can't stop crying. So basically, there's like one scene like right after this whole moment here where what's the black guy's name? Why are all these African named people in this film?
Jaimin Honsu.
Jaimin, dude. I don't know. I got Rob was like wasn't even close.
Yep. Digimon, no.
Digimon Honsu.
Jaimin Honsu. That's Oscar nominee Jaimin Honsu.
Was that Blood Diamond that he?
Yes.
Yeah. We're just gonna call him Blood Diamond. So Blood Diamond here, there's this kid who's standing up on the roof, and he's like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. He's trying to like cover his mouth, like, look, shut up, you're going to get us killed. But it's like, no, I'm gonna scream because we're all gonna die. He just smashes his head up against the wall and kills him because he's like, well, you wouldn't shut up, and I tried to get you to shut up. And there's a couple of other characters in this film who are also just like whiny, just effeminate pussies too, that just really irked me. But what is kind of your take on, I guess we can say, Nuplita's performance?
Lupita, confound it, Jacob.
Exactly.
Lupita.
And her performance.
He actually thought she was good. I think she utilizes a lot of the same things that Us asked her to do, except she doesn't have that weird croaking bullshit that she's doing. And I don't know, that movie was terrible. Whatever. If she's a good actress, I feel bad for her. I think she's pretty good in this. She basically, has to emote, has to look terrified, has to, sell that sheer terror. And I think she does a pretty good job. I also just generally like her character. But you're right. She's the competent one when being kind of surrounded by a lot of idiots. Now, I never looked at it like a guy thing. They're just annoying, stupid characters to me. But, yeah, sure. There's like no genuine masculine presence here among any of the characters, except maybe that guy's name I can't pronounce.
But Blood Diamond.
But he's only in the movie for a fraction of the
Yeah, like he's introduced like about roughly like 20 minutes in, and you think that maybe he'll play a bigger role in the story, but he just disappears for like the majority of the movie. You don't see him again until the very end. So it's like, who knows what the hell he was up to this whole time, because we definitely don't see it here in this film. But no, the two characters that we stick with for the most here was obviously the character of Ruben, played by Alex Wolff, who I was thinking, like, haven't I seen this like dude here before? Because he reminds me a little bit of like Dev Patel, like in a sense. But then I realized, oh yeah, that's the kid from Hereditary and the new Jumanji movies. I was like, oh yeah, it's that guy. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at all, and I'll say I liked Lupita Nyong'o's character. I thought she was very good, because you do have to basically act with your face. You really can't rely on your voice, and she communicated her fear and her frustration and her warmth too with the two kids in the water fountain. So I thought it was a good performance, and I'll throw this out, and I don't know if you guys felt the same feeling. It seemed to almost echo the visuals from September 11th, particularly when she's got all that dust on her face,
Hmm.
and you see all the darkness around. It
Yeah.
evoked memories of that for me. So I don't know if it was coincidental or deliberate. I'm thinking it was leaning more towards deliberate. There are no real accidents when it comes to the film.
I know going into this, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this film's like really reminiscent of I Am Legend." So there was like a lot of I Am Legend comparisons
Hmm.
to this film. Did you guys see a little bit of that
No,
one in this movie as well, or you think that's kind of unfounded?
no, I was still too wrapped up in this. This is like the aftermath of when the towers actually fell, and people were just walking around in dark, almost
You know,
darkness and chaos.
yeah, I didn't think about 9/11 actually. I did write this in my little mini review on Twitter that I actually thought of being a civilian in a war zone. You know, being in a city that's being shelled or bombed, you know, over and over and over again, and just trying to survive, trying to hold on, and hold on to whatever you can. And that's more what it was reminiscent of. But so that's it's funny you brought up 9/11 because it's like, yeah, no, that actually kind of hits the nail on the head. Um, while still being somewhat relevant to kind of my thought. But it's yeah, I think that's pretty close. You know, it's a definitely a traumatizing experience having to go through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the parts in the film, like I said, I think this movie, because of the environment, I think they do utilize their environment pretty well here. Is that when you're dealing with these monsters, like I said, sometimes it's like they're under like T-Rex rules, where it's just like just don't like make a move and then they can't see you, or like I say, if you drop a pin on the ground, like you're gonna get like murdered like first shot. But one of the things I do, like I said, they do kind of utilize, like I said, the environments just adds a little extra element to this that we didn't have before. Because like I said, outside the previous movies were all like in the woods. This one, they actually do develop a sense of intelligence throughout here, and it's like, hey, look, we can actually use like the city elements as a distraction to kind of like move around in between here. I guess we could talk about this portion of the movie too. About halfway into the film, she runs into Joseph Quinn's character here, who's just a guy who I guess was just hiding somewhere in like the subway, because the subway was flooded during this time period as well. So he goes in here and he's another kind of effeminate, like crybaby, like whiny pussy in this film too. And then he just starts following her because, I mean, at this point he's on his own. He just doesn't want to be alone, or whatever the case may be. Fine, whatever. The scene that they're in, however, it's raining. Now, given the context of the situation that they're in, this is actually the perfect scenario for them to move around, because it's raining, there's a storm outside, the raindrops basically nullify any of the noise, and then you can use the very loud thunder to move around without being detected by the monsters. However, they decide to go back to her apartment and just sleep through the storm. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why would you sleep through the storm? This is literally your chance of getting the hell out of there. You're not going to get a better opportunity than this. And they just go, it's like, no, I need to go back and get my pain meds, of course,
Okay,
which is literally fentanyl, by the way, literally fentanyl in the course of the film.
I will excuse it by saying that they are physically and emotionally exhausted, so they need some kind of rest, and they're not thinking rationally about escaping and taking advantage of the rain. So they just find a shelter. They find, you just they may just decide to lie down, and they were just out, which can happen. I mean, maybe it's not the perfect solution, but it's a solution and a reason why they did that.
I could understand from her perspective, because, like I said, she's already dying. So, I mean, we're
Mhm.
watching a character where the stakes of what's actually happening doesn't really matter much to her, because she's gonna die one way or another. It's like whether she gets killed by the monster or gets killed by her cancer, her time is limited no matter what. The other guy, on the other hand, it was kind of like, well, then what's kind of like your excuse here? Because, I mean, like I said, this with the element of dealing with monsters that can only hear you by sound, and now you have a perfect opportunity where rain and the storm nullifies the sounds. You can technically move around any part of the city you want to. They were even talking like in the street, which means that, okay, the storm is like so significant that they can have a conversation with one another and the things can't hear them. Go to the river, because they were told by the giant helicopter today that, hey, these things can't like swim, so just go to the river and then you'll find safety there. And I just assume that, did they forget what the guys told them earlier, or it just was not relevant to the story
So
at that
this
point?
was the initial announcement, basically. Okay, because like remember when they were walking towards the harbor or whatever, and they were like, just walk quietly, they won't get you, and they then they attacked them en
Yeah.
masse.
All it took was one person to scream, and it was like, oh,
So
there that goes.
when I at least this is how I remember it when they were in the apartment. I don't know that they had a plan of where they were gonna go. Like at the end of the movie when they meet up with the boat or whatever, that I don't know that they had a look. You know what I mean? I don't know that they had a solution. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it is bad writing, but at that point, I don't know that they had an exit strategy, an exit plan to get to this boat. That obviously at the end of the movie the guy gets to. So it's just like I'd have to go back and kind of follow the, you know what I mean, the series of events. But
Yeah.
that's what I took from it anyway.
The way I look at it is that sometimes humans do not act rationally and just don't even think things through. And you're trying to apply a very heavy logic here, like, oh well, obviously they should have done this, obviously they should have done that.
I wouldn't
Humans
call
are
it a
not.
heavy logic. I mean,
No,
it's just
no,
kind
no,
of basic
because
survival, right?
after they've seen all of these monsters kill people and they're living out their own fears, you expect them to follow steps A, B, C, D in a pretty straightforward order. But you're watching it too far from outside. You try to put yourselves in the situation that they are living through. They might not be rational in their thinking and kind of just going for, oh, let's just go for shelter. Oh, let's just go for sleep. And then we'll think about it tomorrow, or we'll try to form our thoughts. They don't have to be logical. I don't expect these characters to be thoroughly so logical that they know what they're
I
going to
mean,
do.
on that, I mean, just going by that train of thought, it's sort of like, well, why is she trying to survive if she's terminal? And I think the cat is a part of it. And also when they meet, she's basically like, you can stay here, but then she tries to leave him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's not trying to she's
Mm-hmm.
not trying to leave either, by the way. Remember? She's not trying to leave.
No.
So it's like
That's the other thing too.
There
Just real
might be
quick,
an instinct about, even though you're dying, maybe you just pull back a little bit and you say, "Oh well, subconsciously you want to fight to live, even if it's
right.
for just another day." Again,
and
it's not.
here's hold on, we'll kind of gloss over this. This is actually a very important plot point here too. Is that, like I said, we all know that she's dying. So while this guy is just trying to live, her only objective is she just wants to go to a place in Harlem and go get a pizza. Like that's all she's thinking about. So she's just trying to go to like Harlem and get this last slice of pizza like before she dies, because that was the only reason why she left and went with the guy like in the first part in the first place. He should be in the case of survival, like I said, because she's the only one there that he has found up to this point. He just doesn't want to be back on his own. Which, let's be honest with you, if he was back on his own, he probably would have died, because I didn't see not a single ounce of survival skill anywhere in this guy's body throughout the entire film here. But to your point here, she's working with kind of like a different set of what the reality of her situation is versus like everyone else like around her at this point.
Again, I can only explain it as that people are irrational. They're not always going to do the logical thing or the right thing, and that's what it was here. He's going with her because really he can't find anyone else, and he doesn't want to be alone. I don't see it as in, oh, he's a weak person or a weak man. He's just someone who is living through what he thinks is a terrible, horrible, traumatizing experience, and he's found someone, and so he's going to latch onto her, right or wrong. I'm just trying to think this. I'm trying to think of a reason, but that's as close as I could come to it. I didn't overanalyze it. That and the fact that
And
it has to happen.
look, and you know pick what you guys think is important or whatever. For me, I was just so it's like the ambulances exploding and the craters in the buildings and the monsters climbing up the side of the skyscrapers and the chase scenes, the jump scares, all of the things that people buy tickets for, by the way. I think this movie is going to make a shitload of money this weekend. I think that this is a movie that people will have a lot of fun going to see. Yes, horror movies, genre movies in particular have plot issues, have logic issues. I will concede that, just because I was so busy being entertained and enjoying enjoying watching this movie in a theater, I honestly didn't think of so many of these things. So great job for pointing that stuff out. But genuinely, I just had a really fun time watching this. When they go in the office building and they're trying to get through the fucking the rotating door,
Yeah.
like, and it's just that they're stuck, and they barely escape. The water. She has to be talking about how unmanly this guy is. She has to like make him not be afraid until like the thing is threatening to kill him. Then he has to be like, yeah, shut the fuck up, dude. You know what I mean? So
But
yeah,
I said that
I
there
get
was
it.
there was two incidents in that, because like that was the second one where it's like the guy's like freaking out and like having a meltdown. Like, it's like, look, the thing's like right behind you. Shut up. It's like this kind of, then like she has to like walk him like off the ledge too. And like I said, I don't understand how it made sense in the first two movies where it's like, yeah, if you make a noise, they're gonna hear your location and they're gonna come after you, right? But in this film, it's like, yeah, if you make a noise, they could just burst through the building and get you in one shot, or you could make a noise and they don't know exactly like where you are. And it's very odd exactly how this works, because there's differing levels. Like I said, there's no real consistency here, which I find
Well,
a little
maybe
bit annoying.
when that big generator was going, they were off somewhere else looking for pizza, and
Mhm.
now once the little cloth tears, oh, okay, they're hanging around that neighborhood. I don't know. I think this is a rare case where I think you are overthinking things. These things have to happen in order for you get those moments. It so I think that in this case, like I said, you're overanalyzing it, and I tend to be very tough about things like this. But
I
maybe
don't think
because
it's
it is
overanalyzing.
no, maybe
Overanalyzing, applying that you're
overanalyzing is that, oh well, there's no consistency. The way I look at it is that it had to happen because again, that's what the plot
I don't think
required.
putting a basic common sense is over analyzing. It's just
No,
like,
no, no.
why?
You're just looking for reasons to hate it.
Yeah, you're just not turning your brain off and enjoying it like the rest of us.
No, I,
Well, see,
I,
that's
I
the funny thing is I usually hate movies like that. I usually
Hmm.
hate stuff that, oh, don't think about the plot. Don't think about it. I just didn't, because I was that entertained with it. I was that taken with it. But again, I've said it before. New York City is the biggest cheat code in terms of the special effect. It's
Yeah.
a great location. It's a great place to tell a story. And I thought that they did a good job even with the CGI and the green screen. We just saw Furiosa where it's like it's evident what the rear projection and the green screen in that movie. And here, I mean, it's obvious, but I thought it was relatively well done. Apparently, this movie cost $60 million too. It had a pretty good budget.
I mean, $67 million, which is just like, that's insane. Now it's doing well so far, so I mean, maybe this one will get some decent word of mouth. There was a pretty decent sized crowd, the one that I went there, so it's possible that this could make its money back. Yeah,
oh
$70 million for a movie like
yeah,
this is like,
I
typically they go on the lower end for a horror film budget. This one's going pretty high up there
well
for the genre that it's in.
now, first, you do. This is the prequel to an already established series that most people are familiar with, and I can say that I was surprised that the theater I went to and I saw it yesterday, like around 7:45, 8 o'clock. There was a good number of people for a Thursday night showing. They were willing to miss a debate to see it. So there was a good, yeah, there was more people there than I have seen in Furiosa. There was more people in Monkey Man, more people than I saw in Boy Kills World. Sad to say. So this was probably the most attended screening I've been to for like a Thursday night show. So I think it's going to do well.
A couple of notes here. One, Michael Bay was one of the producers of this movie, just in case you guys didn't know. And then, secondly, Lupita actually had a fear of cats before filming this one, that she had to go to cat therapy before she was allowed to film the movie with a real cat. Now, I talk about overthinking things. I did find it very, very interesting that the cat never said anything in the entirety of the film. I was just thinking to myself,
Right.
especially in that last act, it's like, okay, this cat is gonna fuck one of these two, like at the very somewhere, it's just gonna like meow, and it's like, oh, there it goes. And I was waiting for it, and they didn't do it. I feel like maybe that was too much of a layup, and they just kind of avoided it.
Maybe because it's a service or comfort animal. It's trained not to meow.
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, people
I'm
say that. Oh yeah, this
stretching.
this is my service animal. And it's just like, no, you don't need a
I
service
did I
ferret.
did wonder. I too did wonder why it never meowed, why it never made any sounds, why it never
Mhm.
scratched anything. But again, that's how I
It
rationalized it.
was the cat. I'm not even lying to you. The cat actually acted better under pressure than a lot of the guys in this movie did. And that's a sad state of affairs.
It's,
I
that's the
I
way of the
thought
world.
of the cat the cat meowing, and I'm like,
Okay.
it's gonna like, especially in that one scene early on when she
Mm-hmm.
goes after the cat, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing, you dumb bitch? You know, like,
It
and
didn't
then
even say anything when it dived into the water. I'm surprised. Like that
Yep.
cat's gonna drown.
it's in a bag. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
I know. What
Yeah,
I
it's like
love too is like that's sewer water.
yeah,
That's shit and piss that you're in. Just wanna. Jeez.
it's literally New York subway sewer water. It's like yeah,
Yeah.
it's not great. It's worse places to be in. But I guess we can go ahead and kind of the final thoughts of this movie. Like I said, some things that I like, some things that I didn't like. I think some characters probably should have gotten more shine in this film. There's a lot of plot-induced stupidity and maybe a little bit of character-induced stupidity too, if we're applying that one here as well. Um, like I said, I think it's solid enough. Like I said, horror film, so it's kind of like a low bar. I think it's solid enough, but compared to the other two films, this is nowhere near on the level of the first two A Quiet Place films, so I can't give it nearly that high of praise. For me, it's just kind of an okay horror film. Like I said, people are just desperate for anything to watch right now because everything has been so bad up to the last like a few months. So if people could just go and watch this and find something out of it, good for you. I say I give this like a 2 out of 5 for me personally. Just like, like I said, some things I like, some things that I didn't. So it's kind of like middle of the road for me. So I say 2 out of 5 for this one. Rob.
Yeah, I probably give it a 3 out of 5. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which is probably high. It's probably too high. Just all things considered. But yeah, no, I think it's a 3 out of 5. I think it's a solid thriller. I think it gives you more to look at in terms of spectacle, and it's just a fun movie to watch in a theater. At least I had a really good time. The people around me had a really good time. My theater actually was also not packed, but there was a good 15 people, 20 people there for Thursday at 5 o'clock. Uh, that is saying something. So Lupita Nyong'o, I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Close
I
enough.
thought did a good job. She's expressive. She's an interesting character. She's not a whiner. There's nothing about her that says, "Hey, I'm black." By the way, they never really tokenize her race, which I appreciate. And I can relate to the wanting to get pizza thing. It's this very human. But
Very
actually
bizarre.
the ending kind of actually threw me for a loop because again, I'm an idiot who didn't realize she was terminal and was like, "Oh, okay, that's some
You just thought that this chick just wanted to
that's
commit
some great
suicide.
that's some fatalistic shit right there, man." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes much more sense then." Okay, sweet. So
Okay.
yeah, I thought it was solid monster movie thriller, 3 out of 5. Yeah, but it's the third installment. It's definitely not as good as A Quiet Place Part 1. I have to watch A Quiet Place Part 2, but I'm sure it's that's better as well.
Like I said, the first two like really set the standard here, and it gives you a little bit more. Like it makes you understand kind of at least the setup of this film a lot better if you've seen the second one because they do go into like what caused like the whole incident there. But Rick, what was your
Well,
rating?
I'm going to be a 3. I might push it to a 3.5, but I think I'm going to probably stay with the 3. I think that contrary to what Rob thought initially, I actually thought it had kind of an almost optimistic ending with was it Eric, where he gets to live and the cat gets to live, and she leaves him a little note, or we're keeping to her somewhat sarcastic manner, and yeah, it does for me have a little optimism in it, like a little sense of hope. So that's the word I'm looking for. It has a hope, not for her, but then she's going to die, and she's going to die having had her pizza enjoying her music, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna feel good. You end it with that song right where the monster comes in, because yeah, he could hear it, or she. I don't know if the monster is identifies as male or female.
Are you assuming their gender?
I am assuming the monster's gender,
Dig it.
yes. But I think it was well acted. It moved relatively well. I mean, the movie is like what, 90 some odd
100
minutes?
minutes. It's 100
It's
minutes.
100 minutes, and it could tell its whole story much faster than something like Furiosa, or or Horizon, which needs 2.5 hours to not even tell a story. This one moves well. It's well acted. It does. I mean, I wasn't. I didn't have those jump scares. I think maybe once, but I didn't jump or get scared. I almost was expecting things. So on the whole, I think it was well done, and this is a pretty good prequel without having to. I didn't have to rely on what had happened on in the first film. This is something that I thought about. Do I need to see A Quiet Place, the very first one, to follow this one? Not too much, not too much, but no, I think it's a three, maybe a 3.5. I might revisit it later, but it is better than Argyle.
Actually, if you guys didn't know this film is actually in the Argyle universe. Did you not catch that little Easter egg? I know Rick caught it.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
You didn't notice, like, towards the end while she was going to get pizza at the place and the first one burned down, she was standing. No, actually, it was the scene in the
Oh,
bookstore.
Argyle
the
bookstore. Yes,
Yeah.
but wait a minute. That has one L, not two.
No, it was the same one.
It's yeah.
So
So
basically, it was going to
it's not
be
quite R. I
you're
did
going to
notice
see
that. I did notice that. I
you're
even
going to
wrote
see
it in my
Bryce
notes.
Dallas Howard come out, and then you're going to realize it was all in the same universe.
It was all a dream. It was part of
Mm-hmm.
her. It was part of her spin-off series. So yes, I did notice that, and I thought, is that some kind of joke at Argyle's expense, which I thought would be maybe giving it more credit than it deserves. But yeah, it was. It was. I thought it was a good movie. It's certainly better than a lot of the movies that. It's certainly a better prequel than Furiosa. I think I think even you might concede that, Jacob.
Yeah. Oh, we'll give it that much. Well, outside of that, that's all that I have for you here tonight. So that was our two reviews for the night. Now, here's what I wanted to do. I feel like, especially Rick, I don't want to make you suffer by watching something this week. I can't commit to you guys watching Daddy-O because unfortunately it's limited release. It's showing where I am, but I realize it's not showing in a whole lot of other places. So guess what, Rick? You're going to love this. Just guess.
Well,
Guess what I'm gonna make you do.
well, I don't know because I might not be here Friday.
No. It won't be for Friday. It'll be for Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Well, you better give Rob the Minions thing because he is a
No.
special for
See,
him.
Tuesday I'm gonna make you watch Family Affair, which is the new movie on Netflix with Zac Efron and Joey King. That's gonna be your Tuesday show. Since you won't watch the Minions next week, you son of a
Okay.
bitch.
So this is on Netflix. Okay. Hopefully, I still have Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you know. So it's called A Family
Okay,
Affair.
if you don't, I'll send you the link to where you can watch it.
Or well, maybe my cousin George will pop in Netflix. Although we shouldn't have that much trouble. But okay, Jacob, I will
But
do it. I will do it. But you gotta let me sing the Sly and the Family Stone song. It's a family affair.
no. Anyway, so next
Family
week we're going to
affair.
be reviewing the one movie that I was actually looking forward to this year. The one movie that the entire year that actually be like, oh yeah, I have to have joy, hoping that this movie doesn't suck. And it's a little movie called Maxine, and that comes out next week,
Oh, yeah.
and that'll be our film of the week next week. It'll be the third of the Ty West trilogy. So if you guys have seen X and you saw Pearl from a couple of years ago, this is number 3. This is Maxine. A lot of mixed reviews that I've heard so far, but then again, considering where some of those reviews have come from, I don't think that's too big of an issue. So we'll watch that one next week here on this show, and then Rick is gonna go watch that Netflix movie because
What's Rob going to watch? Refusing. Nothing. Just he's going to watch Maxine. That's it.
Yeah, he gets to watch Maxine, and you get to watch the Netflix movie because you didn't watch the Minions. So there you go.
I had no objection to watching the Minions. It's Robert
don't try to back out now.
No, it's Robert who always has an objection to the Minions. I love the Minions. All right, I'm the only one here who gave Minions: Rise of Gru a positive review. Both of you, I think, hated it, and I don't know why.
Why do you, a 40-year-old man, at least a 40-year-old man, like the Minions? That's fucking weird.
Because they're cute.
You know those people who are on a watch list just for things like that, right?
They look like giant Twinkies, and I like Twinkies. Twinkies, Robert. Okay, I like Twinkies. The little cupcakes that you eat. All right. Do not try to spread any rumors about other Twinks. You know that I had to have that explained to me.
Okay.
And with that said, I think it would be a good time to go ahead and sign off here. So I'm going to allow you guys to prop up and promote anything that you guys want to tell anyone about. I guess we'll start with this guy over here.
All right. Well, first, I'm going to be writing my Bike Riders and A Quiet Place reviews. I'm also going to keep working on my Golden Girls retrospective, and I'm going to start getting ready for Turner Classic Movies Summer Under the Stars series. I think they've just announced the 31 stars that they're going to be featuring 24 hours of, and I like to write a review to correspond to as many stars as I can. I don't think I'll do all 31 because last time I did that almost killed me, but I'll try to do some. So yeah, just be looking for my Summer Under the Stars blogathon, my Golden Girls, and more upcoming reviews of current and past movies. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, Rob, what you got coming out?
So yeah, we've got, I've just got reviews coming out for the most part. My mind's blank right now because I've had a very long week. But yeah, no, there's stuff on my Twitter that's interesting. No, I have a backlog of reviews that I need to get out. I just posted my 100 best westerns of all time. I'm actually going to pin that to my Twitter so it's easier to find. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. But yeah, it's July's coming up, so I'm sure I'll be putting together a movie watching playlist here with The Patriot and Braveheart and a bunch of Mel Gibson shit. So yeah, just be doing that and like always watching movies and trying to as always trying to get my writing out.
All right, and then you guys know what I got coming up here. So this coming Sunday will be episode 50 of the Bible Lens podcast. We're at 50 episodes. We're concluding our Pride Week discussion. We've done a lot of very, very interesting topics over the last 4 weeks. So this week I'm capping it all off by talking about how should Christians witness to the LGBTQ community. We'll talk about that one on Sunday night at 7 p.m. This coming Tuesday is our next episode of the Barroom Podcast. Rick is going to go watch that terrible Netflix movie, and we're going to talk about that. And then we have a couple other topics we'll talk about as well on Tuesday night. And then next Friday, we'll be back here. We'll be talking about Maxine for the Friday Night Movie Club. So that's everything that I got coming up here. Thank you guys for joining me here on the show. Also, give a shout out to everyone who joined us here. Keith over on Rumble, Vanya joined us, Dante, Spencer, Bonnie Rad, Rod joining us here tonight as well, Michael for joining us. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and sign off. We will see you guys, if not Sunday, if not Tuesday, the next Friday night here on the show. Adios, goodbye, and good night.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out!
You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.